The autumn rain tapped steadily against the cafe windows as Marcus stirred his coffee with slow, careful movements. He had been doing it for nearly 3 minutes now, swirling the same cooling drink. Watching the cream form meaningless patterns on the surface, across from him sat Daniel, his best friend of 15 years, completely still. His jaw was clenched in a way Marcus recognized instantly. It was the look Daniel had whenever he was about to say something that scared him. They had known each other since they were 13. Back when they were awkward teenagers trying to understand who they were and where they fit in, they had supported each other through their coming-out journeys. Moving at different speeds but always side by side, Daniel had always been the careful one measured with his words, thoughtful in his choices, building emotional walls with quiet precision. Marcus, on the other hand, had always been the dreamer. He believed in romance, in big gestures, in the idea that love could change everything. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "You've been staring at that menu for 10 minutes, he said gently. "You haven't ordered anything. You texted me 3 times to make sure I was coming. And you're wearing the shirt I helped you pick for that gallery opening, the one you said made you feel brave." He placed his spoon down and looked at him seriously. "Danny, what's going on?" Daniel slowly lifted his eyes from the laminated menu. There was something different about him today's. Something open and unguarded. His dark hair, usually styled so carefully, looked like he had run his fingers through it 100 times. A light shadow of stubble covered his strong jaw. "I need to ask you something," Daniel said quietly. "And I need you to promise you won't joke about it or brush it off before really thinking." Marcus felt his heartbeat quicken. In 15 years, Daniel had asked him for advice about everything: careers, family problems, heartbreaks. But this felt different. This felt like standing on the edge of something that could change their lives. "Okay," Marcus said softly. "I promise." Daniel set his coffee down and folded his hands on the table. He took a deep breath, as if gathering all his courage. "What would you do," he asked, "if you suddenly realized you were in love with someone? Someone you've known for a long time. Someone you never expected to feel this way about?" Marcus froze. His mind raced through possibilities. Someone from work? From the gym? From his book club? Then Daniel continued, barely above a whisper. "Someone. Sitting right in front of you." Cafe seemed to disappear. The voices faded into distant echoes. The rain became a soft, unreal hum. "Daniel," Marcus whispered. "I know," Daniel said quickly. "I know we've never... our relationship has always been..." He pressed his palms flat against the table, trying to steady himself. "I'm not asking you for anything. Not really. I just couldn't keep pretending anymore. I couldn't sit here and listen to you talk about your dreams and your dates and your life, and keep lying to myself." His voice trembled. "About why I listen so closely. Why I cancel plans when you're hurting. Why I think about you before I fall asleep. Why you're the first thing on my mind when I wake up." Marcus reached for his water glass, his hands shaking slightly. He needed something to hold on to. "I'm not asking you to feel the same," Daniel continued, his words coming faster now, like a dam breaking. "I know that wouldn't be fair. Our friendship means everything to me. I would never want to risk losing you." He swallowed. "But I couldn't lie anymore. I was suffocating, Marcus. Every time you called, every time I saw your name on my phone, my heart just opened up, and it scared me." Marcus looked at him, really looked. He saw the fear in Daniel's eyes, the vulnerability, the courage it had taken to speak these words. He noticed the slight trembling in his hands, the way he avoided direct eye contact, the way his shoulders were tense, ready for rejection. What Marcus didn't see was doubt. He didn't see dishonesty. In 15 years, he had learned to read Daniel as easily as his own reflection. And right now, Daniel was telling the truth. What Marcus saw now was the terrifying, beautiful honesty of someone laying his entire heart bare. "How long?" Marcus asked quietly. Daniel looked up, startled. "What? How long have you known about your feelings?" Daniel exhaled slowly. "A long time," he admitted. "Maybe always. At first, I didn't even have the words for it. I didn't understand what it was. But consciously, really consciously, he paused. About 2 years. 2 years, Marcus mentally traced that time backward. Years filled with movie nights, late-night calls, and Daniel's constant presence in his life like oxygen. Essential, invisible, 2 years of knowing. 2 years of hiding. There was someone else last year, Daniel continued. You remember that guy I dated briefly? Marcus nodded. I thought if I could feel something real with someone else, it would transfer, that I could move on. But it only made things worse. Because I kept wishing he was you. Something tightened in Marcus's chest. Not exactly pain, something deeper. More complicated. The ache of realizing someone you love has been suffering in silence. I don't expect anything to change, Daniel said firmly. You need to understand that. I'm not telling you this so you'll become my boyfriend or anything like that. He shook his head. I'm telling you because keeping it inside was destroying me. And because you deserve the truth. His voice softened. You deserve to know why I can't introduce you to anyone. Why no one else ever feels enough. Why? His voice cracked. Why I love you the way I do. Marcus suddenly stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. He didn't remember deciding to move. He just found himself walking around the table. Daniel looked up at him, caught between hope and fear. I need to think, Marcus said. Daniel's face fell. No, wait. That came out wrong. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, searching for words strong enough to hold everything he was feeling. I'm not saying no, he said quickly. I'm saying you've just turned my entire understanding of us upside down. And I can't give you an honest answer while sitting in a cafe that smells like burnt espresso and broken dreams. He placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. They had done this 1,000 times before. But now, it carried new meaning. New possibility, Danny. Marcus said softly, thank you. For trusting me. For being brave enough to say this. Daniel's eyes filled with unshed tears. You're not angry? I'm not angry, Marcus replied. I'm scared. I'm confused. I need time. But I'm not angry. Not even close. Moments later, Marcus pulled on his jacket and stepped into the rain. His thoughts spun wildly as he walked through the wet streets, barely noticing where he was going. His phone buzzed, twice Daniel's messages, full of apologies, but Marcus didn't read them yet. He needed space. He needed clarity. Because in just a few minutes, his world had shifted and he didn't know where he would land. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay awake in his apartment while rain tapped softly against his window. City lights reflected off the wet streets below, glowing in shades of gold and amber. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Daniel's face, the vulnerability, the years of hidden emotion, now shining through like light beneath a closed door. At 2 a.m, Marcus slipped out of bed and made chamomile tea, pretending it was completely normal behavior. While the water heated, he stood at the window and looked out at the city he had called home for 5 years. So much had changed, his career had grown. Relationships had burned bright and faded fast. He had learned what he wanted, what he needed, who he was becoming, and through all of it, Daniel had been there. Every heartbreak, every success, every moment of doubt, when Marcus had questioned his worth. It had been Daniel's voice reminding him that he was enough. The kettle whistled. Marcus poured the water into his mug, watching the tea leaves slowly unfold. What if Daniel was right? What if 15 years of friendship wasn't just a foundation, but roots growing towards something deeper all along? The idea terrified him. Marcus had never been afraid of love. He had always given himself fully, believing in connection and possibility. But risking Daniel, the one person who understood him without explanation, felt different. It was a deeper kind of fear, he thought about. His last serious relationship with James, which had ended 6 months ago, they had loved each other for 3 years, truly. But something had always been missing, an unnamed distance. In the end, they had parted kindly, honestly, and Marcus had realized he'd been searching for something in James's eyes, something he had never found. What if it hadn't been his ex he was searching for? What if it had been the person who had been standing beside him all along? The thought hit Marcus so suddenly that he nearly dropped his tea. He set the mug down carefully and walked back to his bedroom. Sitting on the edge of his bed, he pulled out his phone and began scrolling through old messages, months of them. Maybe more than a year. He reread conversations with Daniel, but this time, through a different lens. Sorry for being annoying today. You were in such a good mood at dinner, and I was being weird. Marcus had replied back then, you're never annoying. You make every moment better just by being there. At the time, he had meant it as something best friends said. Now, wasn't so sure. He kept scrolling until he found a photo from last summer at the beach. Daniel was laughing, really laughing, his head thrown back, his eyes crinkled at the corners. Pure, unguarded happiness. Marcus remembered taking that photo because, in that moment, Daniel had looked beautiful. He had acknowledged it back then filed it away under, my best friend is objectively handsome. But now, looking at it again, something shifted inside him. It felt familiar, like a missing piece finally sliding into place, around 5 in the morning. With rain still tapping against his window, Marcus sent a message. Can we talk today? Before work? He didn't expect a quick reply. His phone buzzed almost instantly. I'm sorry for everything. We can talk about boundaries and how to move forward. No apologies, Marcus typed back. Just coffee. Same place. 7:30 a.m.? Okay, see you then? Marcus set his alarm for 6. He slept for exactly 45 minutes. The cafe was quieter in the early morning. The rain had stopped. Pale sunlight struggled through gray clouds. Marcus arrived first and ordered 2 coffees black for Daniel. Cream for himself. He sat at the same table as the day before and tried not to focus on how different everything felt now. Daniel arrived a few minutes later. He looked like he hadn't slept. Either he was wearing the same shirt, which suggested he'd come straight from home, or maybe never gone home at all. His hair was styled more carefully this time. Armor, Marcus realized. Preparation for rejection. Hi, Daniel said softly. Hi, Marcus replied. Sliding the coffee toward him, they sat quietly for a moment. The morning light was gentle, revealing dark circles under Daniel's eyes and a deep emotional exhaustion. I've been thinking all night, Marcus finally said, about what you told me. Daniel's jaw tightened. Marcus, I meant it when I said I don't expect anything. I know this is a lot, I know, Marcus interrupted gently. But I've been thinking about something else too. Daniel looked up. Do you remember a conversation we had about 2 years ago? You asked me what I would do if I realized I'd been searching for the wrong thing my whole life. Daniel's eyes dropped to his cup. I remember, he said. Quietly, I thought it was a strange question at the time, Marcus continued. But now, I think you were already feeling this and didn't know how to say it. Daniel nodded slowly. I probably was. Marcus took a breath. And I've been thinking about how every relationship I've had felt incomplete. Like I was searching for something I couldn't name. He paused. And then I realized, the one person who truly understands me, who never makes me explain myself, who lets me be exactly who I am, his voice softened, is sitting right in front of me. Daniel lifted his head, eyes wide. I'm not saying I have everything figured out, Marcus continued. I don't fully understand my feelings yet, but I do know this. For 15 years, you've been the most important person in my life. Daniel held his breath, and the idea of pretending, this never happened, of going back to how things were without acknowledging it, feels impossible now. What are you saying? Daniel asked quietly. I'm saying I want to figure this out with you, Marcus replied. I don't know what it will look like. I don't know if it'll be easy or messy or confusing. We might even discover we were wrong. He met Daniel's eyes. But the possibility of us really being together, not just as friends, is the only thing I can think about now.
Oh.
Carefully, Daniel reached across the table, giving Marcus time to pull away. Marcus didn't. Daniel's hand rested over his. Are you sure? Daniel whispered. Marcus smiled faintly. No, he admitted. but I'm willing to find out. Daniel's eyes filled instantly. Tears spilled over. Quiet and unstoppable. They were the kind of tears that came from relief, hope, and the quiet terror of realizing that your greatest wish had suddenly become real. I don't want to rush this, Marcus said softly. I don't want to lose you. But I also don't want to spend the next 15 years wondering what if. They sat there as the morning slowly unfolded around them. The cafe filled with commuters and remote workers. The usual rhythm of the day returning. Still, neither of them moved. Their hands remained linked on the table, and for the first time in years, Marcus felt like he was finally facing the right direction. When Daniel finally spoke, his voice was hesitant. So, what happens now? Marcus smiled. A real smile. One that came from somewhere deep and honest. Now, he said, we go slowly. We talk about everything. We learn who we are to each other when we stop pretending it's only friendship. I can do that, Daniel whispered. Good, Marcus replied. Because I think we have 15 years of feelings to sort through, and I want to take my time with all of it. 3 months later, Marcus and Daniel stood at the overlook on Riverside Hill, where the entire city's skyline stretched out below them. The December night was crisp and clear. Only a few photographers were nearby, setting up long exposure shots of the glowing. Street Spark had been afraid this stage would feel awkward. He'd worried that turning their friendship into something romantic would break something fragile, but what happened? Instead was quieter and far more powerful. They had grown into each other the way deep-rooted plants finally break through the soil and reach for sunlight. Their first kiss had happened 2 weeks into this new chapter. It was a Tuesday night. They were watching a movie neither of them cared much about. Marcus had felt the moment coming. He had noticed Daniel glancing at his mouth, uncertainty and hope in his eyes. When their lips finally met, it felt like coming home and discovering somewhere new at the same time. The kiss was gentle, careful, filled with years of friendship, and months of quiet longing after that. There were many more. Late nights spent talking until sunrise. Conversations. Deeper than anything they had ever shared before, quiet moments in the dark. Daniel's hand finding Marcus's. Marcus. Running his fingers through Daniel's hair without even realizing he was doing it, they told people. Slowly, carefully, their families responded. With warmth and excitement. Asking how long it had been going, Anna, question that always led to laughter and complicated explanations. Most of their friends simply said, we kind of always knew, but the biggest change happened inside Marcus. He realized that loving Daniel hadn't replaced their friendship, it had strengthened. It every moment now had more meaning inside. Jokes carried new layers. Their connection felt almost effortless. Marcus could read Daniel's mood by the way he held his shoulders. Daniel could tell when Marcus was overthinking by the way he pressed his lips. Together, I still can't believe it took me 2 years to tell you, Daniel said. Breaking the comfortable silence, they stood close, shoulders almost touching, fingers intertwined. I still can't believe it took me about 30 seconds after you told me to realize I'd probably been in love with you for years, Marcus replied. Daniel laughed softly. I think part of me was always waiting for you to be brave enough to say it first. Really? Daniel asked, looking at him with quiet wonder, as if he still couldn't believe his feelings were returned. Yeah, Marcus said. When you asked me that strange question about searching for the wrong thing, I think some part of me understood what you were really asking. And I think I spent the next 2 years trying to force myself to feel something for other people. Marcus continued quietly, because I was terrified of what it would mean if I admitted that I already had feelings for you. Daniel rested his head gently against Marcus's shoulder. That's a lot of wasted time, he murmured. Maybe, Marcus replied thoughtfully. Or maybe it was the time we needed to grow on our own, to figure out who we were individually, so that when we finally came together, it wouldn't consume everything else. He smiled softly. Maybe it was just the pace the universe chose to bring us here. They stood in comfortable silence. Watching the city lights shimmer below them, Marcus thought about every small moment that had led to this. Moments that had seemed ordinary at the time, but in hindsight, had been building towards something inevitable. He remembered the day they met. Two awkward teenagers who had instantly recognized something familiar in each other. He thought about years of shared crushes, heartbreaks, and late-night conversations. About identity and dreams, he thought. About how Daniel had been present for every important chapter of his life, that steady presence had been the most reliable form of love he had ever known. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said quietly. "Always," Daniel replied. "What made you finally tell me?" Marcus asked. "After 2 years of keeping it inside, what changed?" Daniel was silent for a long moment. "I was at work," he said finally. "One of my colleagues, you know, the one who's always asking about you, said something about how life is short, about how you never know when someone might suddenly be gone." He swallowed, and it hit me. "I realized the biggest risk wasn't telling you and being rejected." He looked at Marcus,